week you will see from me a Google site with all of the recordings from this week, and I'll add in all of the resources that I referenced throughout the training sessions this week, as well as other resources that I think will be valuable to you. So that Google site, I'm going to spend some time on it today. Should be ready to go depending on how long it takes to get all those videos downloaded. Should be ready to go by early next week. So you'll have that as a resource that you can work through in your own time and share with any of your colleagues who weren't able to make it this week. You can definitely recommend relevant that you think others would appreciate. Okay, so I'm getting a notification that my connection is unstable. So if I drop off, I'll reconnect immediately. So just a warning that that is happening. All right, so our session for today is all about accessibility and differentiation in G Suite. And we're going to talk about it in G Suite, but it's more in just the Google platform overall. And then we're going to talk about differentiation, yes, in G Suite, but also in general. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video. That might help with my connection. Okay, so as I said, today's topic is accessibility and differentiation. So I just wanted to take a moment and just discuss why this topic is so important. And if you've heard me talking throughout the week, accessibility is one of the, to me, it's one of the most important topics to discuss. It's not as sort of exciting as some of the other really cool, fun technology tools, but it really is fundamental when we're talking about teaching with technology. So my question to you, my question to the audience is, what does accessibility mean to you in your class community? So what I mean by that is just like a personal explanation of some of the different learning preferences that you've dealt with in the past or that you've experienced in the past with your students. Do you have students with any physical or sensory disabilities? Do you have students who are English language learners? In the chat, just give me like a quick rundown of why accessibility and differentiation is important to you. I'll give you just a minute to kind of put your thoughts in the chat there. And if anyone wants to unmute, if you'd rather unmute yourself and share your ideas that way, please feel free. Excellent. So Mary says, a child feels welcome to the learning, included, such an important word, and capable of the task, confidence and peace in beginning and completing a learning task, supported. Beautifully said, Mary, thank you. Different learning styles, of course. Of course, we always have students with different learning preferences. So it's important to tap into all of those different learning styles. Good morning, Erica. Thanks for joining us. Absolutely. Emily says we have a few students who are special learners and want to make sure they're included and feel successful. Beautifully said, Emily. Thank you so much. And that's actually just a great segue into the first half of this training. because G Suite provides a platform that makes learning accessible to all students. When we talk about accessibility, we're really talking about how students are going to access the information. And then when we talk about differentiation, we're talking more about tapping into student learning preferences. So my hope for today's session, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the accessibility tools that are available to us in Google. We're going to look at the main ones, and of course there's more, and I'll give you resources to deep dive into those on your own as they are relevant to you, because I know different classes, different teachers are using different tools. I will say when we talk about the accessibility tools in G Suite, part of that accessibility profile or portfolio includes Chromebooks. So we're not going to talk about that in today's session, but if we're looking at accessibility and you do have students using Chromebooks, that's definitely part of the picture. So I will give you resources about the accessibility settings that you can access in Chromebooks to help enhance that individualized experience. We're going to look at G Suite for differentiation and just some of the different ways that we can differentiate within G Suite and provide lessons and activities that have embedded differentiation. And then I'm going to provide you a whole bunch of resources and templates and stuff that you can use for your differentiated learning. Now, I would add in here, when we talk about differentiation, those of you who are Seesaw users, you can apply the same concepts and the same tools that we're going to look at today in Seesaw as well. So it's good to know. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with accessibility tools in G Suite. And for this session, it's up to you if you just want to watch or if you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. So of course, the G Suite or the Google Suite has many different accessibility tools. There's lots of settings, lots of features that we could look at. And as I said, I encourage you to dive deeper if you do have learners with specific learning needs. I don't want to say disabilities, but if we have learners with visual impairment, hearing impairment, there are specific sets of accessibility tools that you're going to want to access for those specific students. These three categories provide a really good starting point or kind of foundation to understand what accessibility means in G Suite and how we can really use these tools in meaningful ways. So just as kind of a broad overview, depending on what technology background you come from, there's two main camps of technology for education or technology platforms for education. One is Google and one is Microsoft. And they have very different approaches to accessibility. What Google does extremely well is collaboration. Like Google is really made for collaboration. And what they've done is tapped into that idea that all students should have access to collaboration in education, which I absolutely love. So their accessibility tools and settings are really built around that idea. The other thing that Google does really well is just, it really kind of capitalizes on this idea of being a suite, which means we have all these different applications and they all work seamlessly together. With deep, deep integration. So, you can easily go from one to the other and they integrate within each other. And that really plays into their principles or their ideas of accessibility as well, because often what they look at is how students can use different applications together to make an enhanced experience or more accessible experience. So that's just a little bit about their sort of general overall approach to accessibility. Often it's using different applications for different purposes. And I will say part of their accessibility suite, if you really want to get into it and use accessibility features on a deep level for specific purposes, you're going to also be looking at extensions. And I'm not going to get into that at all today. But there's a big marketplace of accessibility extensions that you can add to your Google Chrome that could be useful for specific students. Okay, so we're just going to cover the basics today. I'm going to start with Google Translate. I'm just going to show you a couple of things in Google Translate that you may or may not be aware of. How many of you have non-native English speaking students, or you teach a language class? So I know we have Spanish teachers. Oh, did we have Spanish teachers on here? I know we've had them throughout the week. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. So I have my Google Translate. You're probably all familiar with Google Translate. But I'm going to show you a couple of the really neat features and functions of Google Translate you may not be aware of. So one of the really cool things we can do in Google Translate, we can actually translate entire web pages. This is really useful if you are, first of all, communicating or you want to translate a web page for language purposes, meaning like you're teaching in Spanish and you want this web page or this article to be in Spanish. But also for communication with families. So if you have families who are non-native English speakers, sometimes communication can be a challenge, and this could potentially help ease that communication barrier. So super simple. I have my Google Translate open. I have a web page here. And to do this, you're going to want to find a web page that's fairly text-based. So this is Tween Tribune. It just has kid-friendly articles that you can assign in Google Classroom. I'm going to go ahead and copy the URL, Control-C, come back to my Google Translate, paste the URL, Control-V, and I have it translating to Spanish. And I think we have Spanish speakers on who can test this out. But now if I just go ahead and click this, this icon here, which means open in a new window, you'll notice it has translated the entire web page for me. Usually this is where I get oohs and ahs in the training, but I'm sure you're all oohing and ahhing behind your microphones. It's pretty cool, right? It's so easy. And you can just copy and paste. So if we want to copy the translation and share it in an email or go ahead and put it in your Google Classroom, you can just click this little copy translation button and put that anywhere. It just copies the URL, but it's the translated version. Should be the translated version. Nope, that one is not the translated version. Let's see what if we just do this. Oh, that one is also not the translated version. Oh, so I guess you just have to go right there. Or maybe share translation. Anyway, you can play along with that, but pretty cool that you can just do the whole web page right there. The other thing I wanted to show you in Google Translate is we can translate documents from our computer. So if we have a document saved on your computer, again, really nice idea if you're sharing out newsletters with families or parents. Also, if you just need to send home notifications or emails or anything that has maybe more technical language and you want it to be properly translated, we can just pull in a direct document. So here's one that we did, reflection on the impact of our water waves. I'm going to put it in Spanish again, and it will translate the whole document for me. So that's another, we talk about accessibility, yes, with students, but of course also with this remote learning community and remote learning environment, we need to think about also how we're communicating with parents and families. So this is one tool that might ease that communication barrier a little bit. I would also mention, if you are using your Google Classroom for online discussions, as we spoke about, I think on Monday, we were talking about building connection and community. The other part of doing those online discussions is that students, if they know about these tools, they can actually sit back and use these tools to create their posts and to be more edited in how they're posting. So again, students who are non-native English speakers or who need to perhaps type in different languages or who are thinking in different languages, they could actually use Google Translate for individual words to help them with that online discussion post. So getting right back here, one of the other really powerful tools, and I know I've mentioned it in one of the other trainings this week, but I wanted to reiterate and get into a little bit more depth about this specific tool because it can be really, really powerful. And that is presenting your Google Slides with captions. So the first thing that we want to make sure we're doing if we are going to present with captions is make sure you're using a microphone. So most of you have probably noticed that when I present, I have a headset with a microphone. It's a noise canceling microphone. And that just makes it much easier for Google to pick up exactly what I'm saying for closed captions. But also it makes it more accurate. So to start your closed captions, you're going to make sure you're in present mode. So you need to be presenting. And then you come down to your presenter's toolbar and you're going to just turn on captions. Now we do have some options. If I click the down arrow, I can change the text position if I would rather have it at the top, which is kind of nice because sometimes this presenter's toolbar can get in the way of the closed captions. So we can change the position. We can also change the size. So depending on why you're using closed captions and for which students, students who have focus issues or students who just need multiple sources of information or students with visual impairment, you may want to enhance the text size. Younger students as well, if you're using this feature, I would suggest enhancing the text size. Now, a couple things about closed captions. It's not perfect, but it gets better every time you use it because it is smart technology. Your captions are not stored. So unfortunately, it's not like building a transcript that we can download after the fact. But if we're recording this session, it's a synchronous session, you will have the recording, of course, of the whole session. You really need to think about why you're turning on closed captions and for which students. And I know it came up before, the question was, can you turn on captions for specific students? And unfortunately, that's not an option at this point. And some students might find captions distracting. So, you know, it can be that double-edged sword that you're helping some students but hurting others. So it's kind of important to play around with it with your students, be open, have that conversation, who likes it, who doesn't like it. And if it's truly distracting for some students, you might find a workaround where the students who really benefit from it, we could find another method of getting those closed captions to them. And the other thing I would caution is the accuracy of captions really depends on using it often. So it will get to know your voice, your intonation, your tonality, but also your pronunciation. So, you know, just be aware of it. It's not always perfect, and it can be distracting on the presenter's side. So just, I'm curious of, you know, from this group, how many of you like the captions on and how many of you would rather them off? Just with a quick on or off in the chat, let me know how you feel about them. Nice, okay, cool. All right, well, we will go ahead and leave them on then. All right, so while we're talking about captions, the other tool that we can use captions in, and we can actually get pretty specific in how we want these captions to appear, is YouTube. And I know YouTube is a favorite tool for teachers. It's often used. So it's worthwhile not only for us to know how to access and adjust the settings in closed captions, but also for students who would benefit from it, that we teach them, we scaffold for them how to use closed captions on their end. So if they are watching a video, if we're assigning YouTube videos, that they know how to access those accessibility settings. So I'm going to exit out of this presentation, and we're going to just go over to YouTube. YouTube, by the way, is part of your Google Suite. So if you have G Suite for Education, you also have a YouTube account. And depending on your school's, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? If they whitelist YouTube, if they allow you to use YouTube, what the protocols are for YouTube. Generally, teachers use it quite often, but you might want to start your own channel in YouTube so you can actually set up playlists and be more edited with what you're assigning to students. But anyway, here's a video in YouTube that I might assign to students. This is a digital citizenship video from Common Sense Media. And if I want to turn on closed captions, I'm just going to come over here to the closed captions button, and I'm going to play this. You shouldn't hear that necessarily, but at least you can see the closed captions. So just by turning it on or off, it's going to appear. Yes. But if you click the settings gear, you have the option to change the closed captions subtitles. So if I click on that, this is very distracting for me. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to click on the settings and come to subtitles. And now I can get into some of the advanced options or settings for subtitles. Now, this may seem like a little over the top or in depth, but if you do have students who have dyslexia or dysgraphia, the font family matters. And it is sans serif, I believe, is the one that is recommended for students with dyslexia or dysgraphia. The font color, if you have students with any visual impairment or visual acuity issues, the font color might be the difference between them seeing it or missing it completely. So sometimes it is, you know, we like black on blue or white on black. The contrast might make all the difference. The size, of course, if you have students with visual impairment, the size is going to matter. Let's go back here. And we can be pretty, we can get pretty large with the size. The background color, again, students with visual impairment or visual acuity, the background might make all the difference. So white on black, yellow, cyan, sometimes they miss specific colors, but they can see they do really well with red or cyan or black. And the other one I would consider is where it is. Let's see if we can come back. And this would be options. And it's English now, but we can auto translate, and you also have the opportunity to translate to different languages. Great question, Min asks, if I change the settings on one video, will all future videos have the same settings? I want to say yes, but I would check it out. I want to say yes, because generally mine come up in a certain weird magenta setting that I must have changed once, but yes, I think so. Did somebody have something to add to that? I heard a microphone unmute. No? Okay. And the other thing I wanted to show you here, yeah. Okay, so it saves the settings for playback speed. Excellent. The other thing I wanted to show you here is we have the option to open a transcript. So if I want to open the transcript, you will also get this, it's not closed captions, but it's generally a transcript of what they're saying throughout. So from here, I can turn on or off the timestamps. I can't do too much with this, but it's just another option for students who would rather read than watch and read. So it's helpful to know. Any questions about YouTube? No, all right. Okay, so next I wanted just to show you this, this table, which is just a representation of the different accessibility tools available in each of the G Suite applications. So it's constantly evolving, and Google is always adding and expanding the accessibility features across the suite. So this is true today, but it might be, you know, it might be different tomorrow with how things are being updated and evolving. But you can see we have compatibility with screen readers across the board. We have keyboard shortcuts. These are really important tools for screen reader users because they're not going to be using a mouse. They're going to be navigating around with keyboard shortcuts. We have Braille display, functionality and support, and high contrast, and the option to type with voice and add captions. So some great accessibility features here. So I wanted to just dive into two of our most frequently used applications, Google Slides and Google Docs, and just show you around some of the accessibility tools that we have available in both of these applications. So our accessibility tools in Google Slides, we've already spoken about the closed captions. Actually, I'm going to exit out so I can show you. If you do not see this accessibility tab, you actually need to start in Tools. So when you're in your Tool tab, you can click Accessibility Settings and turn on Screen Magnifier and turn on Screen Reader Support. Once you turn on these accessibility settings, that accessibility tab will appear. And essentially the accessibility tools that are going to appear in your accessibility tab pertain to third-party or outside applications. And what I mean by that is students who are using screen readers, that's generally a third-party software. It's called JAWS, or there's another one, but it's another software. And what Google's done is saying we support all of those screen reader softwares, and we've made it really easy for them to read everything within this document as long as you turn on that screen reader support. Same thing with Braille display. So if you have students who are blind or visually impaired, they're going to be using an external Braille display. And in order for that Braille display to read what's on the screen, we need to have that support turned on. And Screen Magnifier, same thing, it's a third-party software. Sometimes it's embedded depending on the type of device the student's using. If they're using a Chromebook, they have built-in screen magnifiers that they can turn on. That's part of the accessibility in Chromebook. So once we've turned all this on, this accessibility tab should appear for us. I'm going to just show you in Tools one of the features that is available embedded in Google Slides. So any student can access it. It's not a third-party software. And that is our voice type speaker notes. This is a great tool. Wait, let me see. There it is. It was hidden over here. So once you click voice type speaker notes, you'll get this little microphone, and I can go ahead and click to speak. And what that does is it's going to auto-generate type text for all the words that I'm saying in the microphone. Period. Okay, so I won't do it too much. This is a, whoops, stop. This is a great tool for students who struggle with typing or struggle with getting their thoughts onto the screen. If that process, like thought to text, is a hard one for some students, this is a really great starting point because I can just type what I'm saying, and then I can come back and edit it and be more, it just gives me somewhere to start because I'm not starting with a blank screen. Now I have some text that I can work with and build on. So that's a great tool that's available for anyone. It's right here in Tools in our Google Slides. And we also have it in Google Docs, which is wonderful. I'll show you that just in a minute. So just want to show you some of the accessibility tools. Again, these are more for your third-party software. So if we have screen readers or Braille display, these are some of the keyboard shortcuts that we're going to want to help students access. Essentially, we want the screen reader to be able to speak whatever is on the screen. So that's what this speak does. The film strip will take them here. So if they are navigating with the screen reader in Google Slides, go to film strip will bring them here and they will be able to navigate through the slides in this way. Go to Canvas takes them into the actual canvas of the slide. Speaker notes takes them into the speaker notes. And one of the really cool things that we have available to us for screen readers in Google Slides is they can actually access comments. That's part of what I was talking about, where Google really prioritizes that all students should have access to some of the collaboration features that are built in. So even students using a screen reader can go through the comments, speak into comments, and then navigate what other students have added into comments. So I won't take too much more time on that. And I just want to show you some of the differences in Google Docs, some of the tools that you have available to you. Most of the same ones, we have that voice typing available to us in Google Docs. This is really nice if you just want students to play around with brainstorming, for example, or stream of consciousness writing, and they're just not typers yet. This is a great option for them. But if we get into the accessibility tools in Google Docs, you have a lot more of these formatting tools that a screen reader is going to have to navigate through. You'll notice that we also have the comments here. One of the things that I absolutely love, and this is huge, that any student could have access to live edits, which means in real time, if students are collaborating on a document, a student who's using a screen reader is going to be able to see, quote unquote, see, which means hear in their screen reader, everything that another student is adding live in that moment. Like, that's such a powerful concept that, you know, on that level, a student with a screen reader working from home can work with other students and see exactly what they're doing in real time. Blows my mind. I love it. So just wanted to point that out on Google Docs. So that's a really, really nice feature for students for collaboration. Okay, any questions about the accessibility tools? All right, then we'll go ahead and get back in here. I'll turn on my closed captions again. And let's dive into differentiation. So I like to start with just a quick kind of reminder of what differentiation is versus what it's not, and what, you know, it sometimes gets caught up in. So just in the chat, I'd like you to just add single words, don't even type full thoughts, single words of what you think differentiation is. Ooh, first word is a winner, authentic. I love that. Thank you, Erica. Styles, yes. Diverse, beautiful. All right, well, let's see what the poster tells us. It is valuing, it is planning, it's planning for diversity. It's creating lessons designed around patterns of students' needs. It is teaching up. It is designed to address learning and affective needs that all students have. That's really important to me. All right, looks like we got most of these. So let's just do a quick reminder of what differentiation is not. And same thing, just single words, throw them in the chat. Let's see what comes to mind. Differentiation is not. Oh, so important, Mary. Singling students or groups of students out. Yes. Followers. Yes. Remedial. Yes, absolutely. It's not meant to be an afterthought. Okay, so let's see what it tells us. You know, the old bluebirds, buzzards, and wombats, grouping people by, or grouping students by abilities within a classroom, putting them in those categories and keeping them in those categories, I think is a really problematic approach. And when we talk about learning styles or learning preferences, I think it's also important to not put students in those boxes and say, you are just this. It doesn't mean something extra on top of good teaching. It just is part of good teaching. And it's definitely not dumbing down. So we always want to look at it as a strengths-based approach and something where we're trying to bring everyone up, not just for gifted and not IEPs for all. Good. All right. So this is where I'm going to start getting into lots of resources for you all. One of my favorite tools for remote learning that we can embed differentiation into the tool is using choice boards. So this is a choice board I created specifically for you all, for St. Pat's teachers, based on all the different tools that we've learned this week, all the different features that we've learned this week. So you'll notice this choice board is set up very much like a tic-tac-toe board. And this is a fairly common kind of format or orientation for choice boards. And you have students complete, so they start in the middle, and then they have to complete a single row. So they can go diagonal, they can go up and down, they can go across the middle, they can go diagonal this way. My dog is being destructive behind me. So this is a pretty common sort of choice board menu here. And then if you're creating this, and by the way, I'm going to give you this choice board, this complete choice board for you to work on if you choose to. But I'll also give you the template. So you have the blank template and you can go ahead and build it out as you choose. But what you would end up doing is each of these icons or these squares would be linked to that specific activity. So if this activity is in Google Classroom, create a discussion post you would use in the first week of school. This is going to be linked to Google Classroom, which will prompt you to sign in to Google Classroom. I don't believe I actually linked all of these for you because it was more an example, but I'm happy to kind of to share this with you. And in fact, I'm going to share this whole presentation with you so you'll all have it. And we will make it editor. And we'll copy the link. And I'm just going to go up here and I will force the copy and pass this link on to all of you in the chat. So you have this whole presentation and there's lots of links directly in this presentation. But if you go ahead and open that one up and get yourself to this slide, it's slide 15, then we can take a look at this choice board. So let me know when you have the document open and you're on the choice board. Perfect, beautiful. All right, nice. Okay, so you should be able to click here and it will open up a copy of this choice menu for you. And this is yours. So you can go ahead and modify this or edit this or complete this as you like. I also have a link in here to a more comprehensive choice menu template. Let's see what happens. And I just want to walk you through both of these options. So this is a pretty basic one. I would have these linked to the different tools. So I did it with Flipgrid and I did it with Google Earth, but I didn't link each of these icons because essentially it's just going to take you to your Google sign-in, Google application sign-in. But if you were doing this with a student, you would want to link to whatever the assignment is or whatever the actual page is. So if you're doing something in Google Classroom, you can actually get a link for that specific assignment or specific post in Google Classroom or in Seesaw, for example, to bring them right to that page. Does that make sense? How many of you have been using choice boards or choice menus already and you're very familiar with this? Good. Good. Good, good, good. Okay, so it's not new information. The other thing I wanted to point out while we're here in choice boards, this is a great way to differentiate, to provide students with options at various levels so they can do things based on what their interests are, but also based on what their abilities are. And yeah, so it'll look different for each student and you can do them on pretty large scale or you can do it, on just a single lesson scale. So when I say large scale, I mean more like larger projects or units. So we have this blank template. Feel free to use it, copy it, add your own icons, et cetera, et cetera. This one is slightly different. So this one, I would link, so in each of these boxes, you would link to the single slide, which would give a more detailed description of what that activity is. So this is a pretty, it looks like a much larger slide deck, but in fact, the student's only really going to interact with this first page, and then they will say, okay, I click on this one, which is Google Docs, and it will bring them to this page. And this will have a detailed description, any links that they need to access in order to complete this activity. And then they would click here to go back to the main choice menu. I hope this is linked. If it's not, you might have to go in and link it. Okay, well, you can play around with this one, but that's for you to use. And I wanted to come back. So this is all activities that we've done this week. So if you wanted to give yourself homework over the weekend, this would be what I would give you based on what we've learned this week. So the next one is just another example of a choice menu. This one comes from Casey Bell at Shake Up Learning, and I think I provided that resource earlier this week. This one is, it's a professional development tic-tac-toe menu based on the accessibility and differentiation training that we've just done. So you know, it just kind of takes you through some of the skills that we've covered in this training session. But you'll notice here at the bottom, I also have more templates, more choice board or digital menu templates available for you. You will need to make your own copy of these ones. But this is more of a menu look to it. So if you wanted to do that one. These I did not create. I have modified them slightly, but they're not my creation. So I don't want to take credit for them. But this one's based on the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And this one's kind of fun. This one was built out in Google Drawings. And so this one really differentiates based on level or difficulty of task. And the teacher's asking that you attempt at least one extra hot before the end of the semester, or before the end of the term. So lots of different approaches here to what you can do with choice menus. And in the Google Slides presentation that I shared with you, we also have links here. So this is the tic-tac-toe menu. But I've also added from Shake Up Learning. If you don't follow Shake Up Learning, it's a great resource to follow. She adds content very frequently. But one of the really nice things that she has put out, and when I say she, her name is Casey Bell, is this Teacher's Guide to Digital Choice Boards. And it just gives you a really good background of why we could be using choice boards and how you can use them in the classroom. So you'll notice some of these ones that I've included in the session. And for more templates, this will take you to Slides Mania, which I've already shared, but just want to reiterate that they do have a lot of choice menu templates. So if you go to education, choice boards and games, they do have a lot of templates that you could go ahead and use for choice menus. And they are in the style of that kind of longer slide deck where it'll link to another slide that will detail the activity. So these are really nice. There's lots of different options and different styles in here. And they're really cutesy. So that, you know, it could work for you. If you're using these templates, just remember about the master slide that you can go in and change or remove any of the things that appear stuck on the slide that you don't like. And then, so I've added in just a couple other resources for accessibility. If you want to dive deeper into accessibility, this is the G Suite user guide. And I've also added the Chromebook guide for accessibility. So, oops, it says I don't have access. Let me see here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if this is not working for you, let me know and I can send it in a different way. But essentially, if you are using or your students are using Chromebooks and you want to provide them with extra support, there are a lot of really amazing. Okay, let me go ahead and change the permissions on that. And I will send it to you separately, okay? But yeah, if your students are using Chromebooks, you're definitely going to want to have the Chromebook accessibility settings available to them, because there are so many things that they can modify to personalize their experience on the Chromebook. I wonder if I just should do it like this. All right, well, while I'm messing around with this, we're coming down to our last few minutes. So I'd love to hear any questions or comments about accessibility. Anything anyone's thinking, or Let me just check if this works. All right, let's see if that just works if I put it in there. I don't think that's going to work. You know what? I'll embed this in the Google site so you'll have access to it. I'll actually add a whole bunch of resources about the Chromebook and Chromebook accessibility. No problem. Ooh. Put in mostly words. Could I put a little translate to Russian link on the bottom for them to click? Pages in Google site page. That's a great question. It should. Yes, absolutely. It should. You should be able to do that. I don't see why not. If you could create a little button on, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think. I just want to share a quick form for feedback. I think most of you have been with me throughout the week, so I definitely wanted to send a little feedback form. So I'll just put a link in the chat here. And I always appreciate feedback. Going forward, it makes me better. Yeah, Catherine, if you are listening to podcasts, she does an excellent podcast, and she's just been so great about consistently creating content. And when there was the big shift to remote learning, she was one of the first ones. She was right on it, really addressing, you know, here's templates, here's resources, here's everything you need. And then kind of quickly went into the reflective mode of how is this working for teachers? How is this working for students? And having real conversations on the podcast. So if you are into Google and really want to kind of take your Google use to the next level, I highly recommend Casey Bell at Shake Up Learning, and Matt Miller at Ditch That Textbook is also one that just creates a lot of free content and resources. He probably gives away too much for free, but it's really good stuff that you can just take and use on your own. Let's see. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And he's a great speaker too, and they've done a lot. And the other one, so there's three that kind of work together. The other one is Alice Keeler. And she, if you're into spreadsheets, she uses spreadsheets in just the most creative ways in her instructional material. So I follow those three and get their updates into my inbox every week. And man, I get so much great information from those three sources. Okay, Min, is it okay if I share your just your Google site that you created this morning? I'd love to share it just for anyone who's interested. Okay, I do want to, because I really appreciate the application of all of this information. I know this week has been a lot of information. Wonderful. Oh, good. I know this week has been a lot of information, and hopefully you take it all, take what works for you, and you can always come back and revisit the Google site. You can revisit the recordings, revisit all of the supplemental resources and materials that I'll be providing you. But so Min sent this to me this morning, and she's been working on her little Bitmoji classroom. So, well, do you want to talk about it, Min? It's better if you talk about it than me.
Sure. I'm not sure what to say. I created the Google site because I was trying to figure out how to send my intro video to my parents today and not just have to send like a link to actual YouTube, because I had already been thinking a lot about making a Google Classroom anyway. So I made a Google site. I labeled it the Mrs. Gavino's Kinders. This picture on the top, it's actually just an image clip art because I couldn't get the actual banner to look nice. So I took off the banner for this home page, and it's just one page right now, but I planned on putting my video on the left side of the whiteboard. So if you refresh, you actually might be able to see the sample video. So I was trying to troubleshoot. Yeah, there it is. That's one of my ultrasounds. So once I have my video recorded, which I just put on makeup before this meeting so I could do that, I plan on uploading it from my Google Drive onto the spot right here. And I created the Bitmoji Classroom in Google Slides, and then I just uploaded the slide onto the Google site directly. So then whenever I update the Google slide, it automatically updates on the classroom. I think I have to hit publish again to make sure it refreshes properly.
Right, beautiful. So this is a Google slide with images that are set to the background, right? And then shapes that are hyperlinked to different things and an embedded video.
So the video right now is the only thing with a hyperlink. The coffee cup is just this. But okay. I plan on having this is my first intro video, right? And then like my second intro video is gonna be like, meet Mrs. Gavino's family. So then the little banner will say meet Mrs. Gavino's family, and I have a second one. So I'm gonna make a different like home page type thing in the middle for them to be able to click on which video they want to do. And then since this is the home page, I'm gonna actually switch this one over into a sub page and title it like first intro video or whatever. So that way they have the landing page, and then they can click onto which of the 4 videos they want to watch.
I love it. And I love that this Google site can look so simple and so clean. So, you know, if I'm a kindergartner and I'm coming here, this is really easy to navigate. And there's one button that's, you know, calling my attention, and I know that that's where I'm going to have to play. And I love that you removed the banner to just add the image to keep it even more focused and clean. This is really, really nice. Really good.
Thank you. I was up way too late last night doing
No, it's like a rabbit hole, these little design things. So I'm curious if any other questions have come up, and like I said, feel free to email me with quick questions, just because our live training sessions end this week doesn't mean that our communication has to end. So I am here for you now. So if you have quick questions, feel free to email me. And then we'll pick up on August 27th with that full day of, well, it's not a full day. It's about 4 hours of training more on your hardware. So how you're using the IFP, as well as your Mimeo views and your swivels. So that will be more focused on hardware. And then we do have those 25, 30-minute sessions. So if you have small groups that want to get together and request a training on XYZ, that's totally guided by you. So I will not come up with preconceived training sessions and things that I'm leading you. It's more like you saying, I want to learn this, or I'm struggling with this, I need support with this. And then we set up a time and we do a 30-minute session based on what you're looking for. So take advantage of those. I think we have those starting after the 27th because I need to put in a scheduling tool to make that available for everyone. But in the meantime, feel free to email me. My passion is helping teachers, and especially now. So don't ever feel bad about emailing and asking questions, okay? All right, so with that, I will say goodbye. And thank you so much for joining me this week. I appreciate you all, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Emily. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Guys. Bye, Erica. Have a
Gracias.
great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Adios.
Adios. Thank you, guys. Hmm.